In this episode, we will look at some of the larger palms and exotics that are growing in my garden at the end of September 2021. Let's have a look. Well, here we are at the end of another growing season. It's the end of September 2021, and we have to start considering bringing in the tropical plants. My opinion, leave them out as long as possible. With very few exceptions, plants such as plumerias, caladium, things that are very tender should be brought in. Other than that, leave your plants outside until it's 5 degrees or less. And I'm talking about 5 degrees long term, not 5 degrees for one night. Now, let's see what's growing in my garden at the end of September 2021.
Welcome to my channel. I hope you're all doing well. For those of you new to my channel, I'm a gardener in Zone 5B. And today we're going to talk about palm trees and large exotics. I'm standing in front of Livistona Chinensis, the Chinese fan palm. My plant is currently about 9 feet tall, or 2.7 meters, and about 10 feet wide. The newest fronds are almost 5 feet across. The newest fronds are a bright, vivid green. It's a really magnificent plant. The older fronds are showing their age. They are a little sunburned. This plant does benefit from having some dapple shade during the midday sun, but it is what it is. The plant is now too big to dig up and relocate. It's still a beautiful plant. This is my white bird of paradise, Strelitzia Nicolai. It's a massive plant. This year, I'm guessing over 14 feet. Look at the size of that plant. I don't know if you can see the tops, but the leaves are just massive.
Everyone thinks it's a giant banana tree. First of all, it's not a banana, it's not a tree.
Nothing says tropical like bananas, palms, and this is extremely exotic. The white bird of paradise is not commonly grown in the ground because it is very frost tender. But with a lot of effort, it is doable. It does take a lot of effort to overwinter, but it's well worth it. On this side, we have my Trachycarpus palms, Trachycarpus fortunei. I currently have 2 Trachycarpus palms in my front garden. This one, the taller of the two, has about a 5-foot trunk. The one next to it, planted 4 years ago, has a 2-foot plant, and now it's almost the same size. Let me show you the base of the smaller Trachy. This is the base. It's about 10 inches across. This is massive compared to the older one. Let me show you a close-up of the other trunk. This is a close-up of the other Trachy with a 5-foot trunk. They stripped the trunk, and it's still growing. What can you do? The smaller of the two has much longer petioles. The leaves are much longer, wider, and the petioles are serrated, which is unusual for a Trachy. Let me show you a close-up. This is a closer look at the petioles. You can see the serrations. If any of you Trachy growers can ID what variety of Trachy this is, I would really appreciate it. It's doing extremely well. I guess I'm overfeeding and overwatering. This is my tallest Trachycarpus palm. It's about 10 feet tall right now, about 3 meters, growing actively, pumping out lots of fronds. The fronds themselves, short petioles, and the leaves themselves are not very wide. I'm not sure what it is, if there's something lacking or if it's just the genetics. It's actively growing, but it's not as full or as large as I'd hope. Still, a nice palm. This is the smaller of the 2 Washingtonia Robusta, the Mexican fan palm. It's currently just over 8 feet across at the widest and just over 6.5 feet tall. It's growing super well this year. I'm really happy with its progress. The trunk diameter is about 12 inches, which is pretty close to the size of the larger Washingtonia, which I'll show you in a minute. This is the trunk of the larger Washingtonia. It's currently about 14 inches at the widest
it's not growing as well upwards. I wonder if maybe the trunk has to expand first to a certain size before it puts on the upward growth. This is an overall view of the large Washingtonia. It's about 7.5 feet tall and just about 8 feet wide. This is my Phoenix roebelenii, the pygmy date palm. This is its second season in the ground. It overwintered surprisingly well. It's a triple trunk and currently about 45 inches tall. The leaves are flawless, no browning, no dry tips, looking great. Here's a closer look. If you look at the foliage, it's just perfect. It's pristine, no drying tips. It looks like it's artificial. Vivid, bright green, no flaws whatsoever. I'm hopeful we can encourage it to flower one of these years. That would be quite an achievement for Zone 5B. This is the base of the Phoenix roebelenii. Triple trunk. This is one of several Yucca Gigantea I have in the ground. This plant has been in the ground into its third year now. Over 7 feet tall, surprisingly easy to overwinter. It's branching out, putting out offsets from the base, from the roots. This is the base of the Yucca Gigantea. This is its third season in the ground, outdoors. Very tropical looking. I'd highly recommend this plant. The plant is branching out from the trunk and from below ground level. Very thick, very green, very vibrant. No winter damage whatsoever. Tolerates overwatering with proper soil preparation, of course, and it tolerates drought. Very easy to overwinter using the C9 Christmas lights method. This is another Yucca Gigantea. This was put into the ground last spring. No roots, just a big 3-stem cutting. It rooted at the end of the year and overwintered no problems. Here's another view of the Yucca Gigantea that was planted last year. So it's almost 6 feet tall. It's been a very good summer. Sago palms have never looked so good. Bindle palms are putting on a fair bit of growth. The smaller one has flowered for me and is producing fruit. Here's a closer look at the fruit forming on the Pindle palm. I planted some Phalaenopsis orchids onto the trunk of this large Pindle palm. And of course the elephant ears. The elephant ears have never looked so good. All the water from the roof was funneled down onto their roots. They put on phenomenal growth. The Alocasia Macrorhiza on each end, and the Colocasia esculenta. Easily 5 feet tall. Leaves are massive. They've never looked so good. The Musas basjoo is just over 10 feet. This Musas basjoo is currently just over 9 feet tall. It was planted in the spring as a 3-foot plant. This is the base of that same plant. Look at the number of offsets it's putting out. 8 or 9 offsets from that tiny plant. This is the red banana, Ensete, Ventricosum maurelii. Just over 9.5 feet tall. And shortly it will be cut down, repotted, and brought inside for the winter. Early next spring, we plant it in the ground as soon as weather permits. It's beautiful. Too bad it has to come down. This cordyline, as you can see, is well past the roof line of the house, so it's well beyond 10 feet. Growing amazingly fast. It's very straightforward to overwinter.
grows with no problems really. Keep it well watered, feed regularly, and you're off to the races. The Pindo palms, as you can see, are doing well. The Zimbabwe creeper is about to flower. Many flower buds forming on the terminal branches. The Brugmansia, very sporadic flowering this year, but there are many flower buds coming right now. Hopefully they'll flower before I have to shut everything down for the winter. The agave is becoming a monstrous plant. It's going to be a challenge to cover up this year. If you have enjoyed the video, consider subscribing if you haven't already. Give us a thumbs up, and until next time, happy gardening.